Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a lovely day. So before you attempt to continue on with this tutorial, I got a little disclaimer to tell you. This tutorial is going to be very long. I will say that. I try my very best to keep it as short as possible, but due to the complex nature of kit bashing and combining booth outfits to Vroid models or just overall different models and such, it is pretty, especially for me to explain. Yeah, I do apologize that the tutorials could not be any shorter. I mean, there's probably a way to explain them even shorter, but again, there are going to be some missing information that will probably be very crucial. So keep that in mind, these tutorials are going to be pretty long. And also, I did try my very best to explain as thorough as possible, but do keep in mind there are probably going to be some missing information that you may require external researching, so please keep that in mind. You're going to have to do some extra checking on different tutorials to ensure that you understand the whole process basically and just 3D in general. And last but not least, I hope you guys have fun. And again, always make sure to credit your artists, whoever made your booth outfits and such. Check in the description. There are the assets that you'll be needing. And yeah, on to the tutorial! Heika, 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 hi everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying your lovely day. So in this following tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you on how to set up skirts, dresses, whichever one, as well as shoes and how to get it working on, from the booth outfit, taking that and putting it onto your Vroid model. That was a bit of a mouthful to say, but that's what we're going to be working on. I'll be showing you how to, because the thing with skirts and dresses, they pretty much follow the same method basically when it comes to getting it retargeted to your Vroid model and sculpting it. And as for shoes, because the outfit does have shoes included, I'll show you how to do the retargeting for shoes also. Again, it depends on the shoe, but for the most part, same process. Now, of course, we're going to talk about requirements. What do we need? So we're going to be needing Unity. If you're a VTuber or you're using it for VSF Avatar, use 2019.4.31. There, keep in mind in the future, this Unity version may change, so just be aware. Otherwise, Unity version doesn't really matter too much. Your goal is that you'll be needing Unity in case when you download a boost asset, it only has the Unity package, or if somebody is having you do the assemble of the model and they only give you the Unity package, this is what you'll have to do. Of course, I'll be sure to leave a time skip in case you have only the FBX. So if you have the FBX file, just import the Blender and we can go from there. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do the whole Unity package to Blender. So yeah. So, and besides Unity, you're of course going to be needing Blender. I'm using 3.5.1, but you can use 3.6 or 4.0 of Blender. You can even use 2.8, it works, but do not use Blender 2.79. That is a really old version of Blender, and we don't use that anymore. I can understand why, but don't use it. And then we're going to be needing two add-ons, the Cat's Blender add-on and then the VRM Blender add-on. The VRM is to import your Vroid model to Blender, and then of course Cats, so we can utilize some settings to help make our retargeting process a lot more easier for ourselves. But without further ado though, let's get started. So we're going to go into Unity and we're going to click and drag. I'm going to go ahead and find the Unity package on my area. Yeah, for my case, I only have the Unity package, so I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this to the Unity project, and as you can see, I have a folder that has the assets, and there is the FBX file here. Now, if, let's say, for example, this file is only the prefab, that's the only thing they have. Let's say there's only a prefab. If by any chance the accessory is only in the prefab format and not FBX, it can get a little complicated. You can either A, use UniVRM and export the VRM and kind of get to Blender, or B, you can go to Package Manager of Unity and use the FBX exporter and utilize that to put it into Blender. Otherwise, I won't be going over those methods though, because it's a bit of a, it's like a more of a rare case for the most part, but for the most part, boost outfits still tend to actually give you the FBX file for editing purposes. So, once you have identified where the FBX file is in Unity, you're going to right click on it, go to Show in Explorer, and then there will be a file explorer that shows you where exactly is the FBX file at. You're going to go to the top part, which I have video edited, that should be marked with a circle. You're going to click that area and do Control C to copy it. Then we're going to go into Blender, right here. And this is TestChan. In case you're wondering how did the Vroid model get in here, just go to File, Import, and VRM. Make sure that the plugins are installed. In the description, there are resources. And then import your VRM and select your VRM model from there. Otherwise, once you have your FBX file detected, or you know where it is, just go to File, Import, FBX, and this is where you'll import the boost assets at. So I will go ahead and import the FBX file for my case, and there you go. We have our assets here. Now, for this case though, yes, we do have like pretty much a dress. I can go ahead and delete this. I do have another tutorial that goes over the whole like individual shirt in case you want that sort of tutorial, but in this case we have a dress going on, which this can get a little trickier. It can get a little trickier, but the process is pretty much the same as the others. So we have a dress, or basically a skirt, whichever, and then of course we do have shoes that we wish to retarget, which this one can get a little trickier. So what we're going to do starting first and foremost is that we're going to delete the original clothing from the Vroid model itself. And also just a reminder, we do have the screencast mouse buttons here, so if you are struggling to follow along, please look at the little blue here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the Vroid model, we're going to press the tab key, or you could just go to the top left here and go to edit mode. Then deselect everything by clicking on an empty space, and then you're going to go into the materials here. And then you're going to find the material that corresponds with the outfit and click on the select button up here. I hope I am not hiding it. Yep, I'm good. So it's like up here. Just click on select and then select whichever ones apply to what you want to be removed. For this case, we're going to remove all the clothing articles, so the shoes and this. Press the X button, delete by vertices, and boom, we have our base body. Then we're going to go ahead and select the armature here of the dress, and we're going to scale it to size, basically. Now this doesn't have to be exact quite yet, but we just want to get like sort of the approximate areas, because we are going to have to do some further refining. So for this case, it seems to be like pretty much a fit, but we still got more to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the armature, go to Object, click on Apply, and click on All Transform, so the scaling of the armature is permanent. What you can do, depending on the outfit, you can go into pose mode by pressing on the armature and clicking on pose mode on the top left here, and you can actually change the bone scaling or movement or rotation depending on the bones and how it's set up. So if you want to do like further stuff, so let's say if I want to make the dress more longer by any chance, you can scale it so it can be a bit more longer. For instance, keep in mind too that just because the dress is longer, physics-wise for dresses, it can get a little trickier, so please be mindful, because again, you'll probably experience a lot of clipping, you'll have to set up colliders and such, so just be mindful that if you're going to do some heavy edits with the skirt, you may, for advanced users, you may have to change the actual rig of the dress itself. For this case, it should be fine, but that's just a heads up. So yeah, and also do double check for any extra bones, by the way, because let's say like, you know, how earlier I removed the sleeves of the dress basically because I didn't want the sleeves to be there. You're probably going to have some extra bones left over that you may wish to remove. So just select the armature, go to edit mode by pressing the tab key, or go to edit mode up here and just select whichever bones that don't move in pose mode, like this, and just delete them in edit mode by pressing tab key and toggling it. So yeah, so these bones here, useless. This one has a chain, so this is fine. Yep, because that's a collar. This one has movement. Let's check this area. Does this one have movement? Nope. So we can go ahead and remove those bones. This character does not have a tail, actually. Does this work? Yes. So this does work. Because I believe this was rigged for... Yeah, because this was rigged for a tail to also be existing. I can delete this one. But this one I cannot, so yeah. Alright, so for this case though, yeah, we should be okay then. And of course the rest of the dress, it should move. And then of course we do have the shoes we want to retarget to our avatar. So once you pretty much cleaned up and sort of eliminate the bones that are useless or what you don't need, again, you may have to, again, experiment a little bit on the armature to ensure if it is. But again, be careful when you delete bones, because sometimes you may delete a bone and it's, like, actually important, so be careful. But either way, so now that we cleaned up the armature, the next thing we have to do is, we have to fit the outfit on the mesh before we do armature retargeting. So what we're going to do, right, now you can use pose mode, right, and you can, like I mentioned earlier with the skirt, you can use it to sort of like pose some bones. So let's say for the shoes, I want it so it's like more inner, which helps get closer to what we want. So for a case like that, what you're going to do is you're going to select all of your bones here. And then you're going to go to the Cat's Blender add-on, and then you're going to make sure that the armature is set to the one that corresponds with the current armature you're in, and you should see a button that says Apply as Rest Pose. Make sure all the bones are selected and click on Apply as Rest Pose. And also, by the way, if there's like a bone that is deemed as useless, you can, let's say like there's a bone, right? Like let's say this one here, and let's say I don't want this bone to be here, but it does do some movement, you can just merge it, merge to parents here, and that can help you out getting rid of like any sort of extra bone, by the way. Just wanted to at least make sure I say that. But either way, I could also do the same thing for this one, merge to parents, so it's like not as like that. But either way, so once you do that, the next thing you're going to do is, of course, we're going to use edit mode and sculpting to get this fitted onto our model. I also recommend too, by the way, that if possible, depending on the outfit, you may want to join some of the meshes. It depends on the mesh, but you may want to, like for instance, the dress here, I would want it where I want to join the meshes together, so as I sculpt, I can keep them intact together. But there may be some other cases you may want to keep it separate, like maybe the collar, you may want to keep it separate and such. But yeah, just keep in mind that it just depends basically on the outfit's case. So let's say for the dress, right? We see that our, it's clipping a lot. So how do we get this to look good? Well, like I said, we can go press the dress or the skirt, go to edit mode, and then what we're going to do with the tab key, of course, you can press the O button to activate proportional edit, which is up here. You can set it to connected only, so it's like within any connected vertices, like this, or you can have it set so it's not connected only, so it takes over the entire dress like this. Use it depending on the case that you want. I also recommend please make sure to click on the mirror mode here, by the way, in case the dress is mirrorable, which luckily this dress is, but not all boost outfits can be mirrorable. And especially the Vroid skeleton, for instance, it's also not mirrorable. You'll have to like change the name of the skeleton, which it can get pretty annoying. But I just want to at least say, like, if possible, try to have it so that way it's as mirrored as possible. So yeah. But as you can see, pretty much proportional editing is doing a lot of the work for us, so it's pretty good. But what if, let's say, you have a higher like the topology of the dress is like a lot higher poly, it's more obnoxious. What do you do? Well, let's say we're gonna go back to the original state of the dress, right? So how do we fix this if we can't use proportional edit? Well, you can use the sculpt mode and actually change the mesh just by the sculpt brush. So make sure that mirror mode is on up here, and then you can use the sculpt brush to actually move and scale the dress. So that way it looks, more fitting to your model basically. It can take some time, but after some, Make sure that you take your time with editing and you should be good. But let's say, for example, I accidentally made this part too big. What do? You can either A, undo it, of course, but if you did a lot of progress and you want to smooth it out, you can just click on the smooth sculpt brush here, increase the strength or lower it, depending. Sometimes I set it to 0.5, and then you can use a smooth brush to smooth it out, or what I do a lot of times is that I use a draw brush, and I draw, but then if like while I am working on the sculpting, I hold the shift key and I kind of just smooth it out as I'm going in case I make it too big on accident, basically. Again, make sure you change your values because sometimes it may be a bit too much and such. So yeah. But either way, this is pretty much just another method of being able to do the whole fitting, basically. So yeah. And let's say like I'm happy with this, right? It's good as it is, and this is what I want. But of course, we still got the collar to do. So make sure you also take the time to also like change the basically change like the other stuff too. Make sure that they are set to fit. But I'm just gonna quickly like go through this basically, but you'll see how I am just like editing real quickly. And I will also, of course, go here and I will edit the chain so it's not clipping too much with the neck right now. The power of sculpting here. So I'll set this as rest pose. And as for the shoes, I'll show you. Because the shoes are pretty long, I have to, for the most part, I go to edit mode. And I have to change the sizing basically. So, basically we're just going to edit the vertices. Now for this case, this is a heel, so this can get a little challenging to edit. Again, every shoe, there's like boots, sneakers, and all that, so it's more of like you have to just try your best to fit it. I will say also, you may have to actually do edits to the actual mesh itself. So if you absolutely want to keep your feet, like the actual like original mesh underneath, which I don't recommend if you're gonna like retarget these shoes, but you could try like editing the mesh itself within and try to like get it to fit if you absolutely need it for like toggle reasons and such. But otherwise, I don't recommend it entirely, because it's just because typically it just wouldn't look good, and it's like, yeah, no. What I usually do if I were to actually do this, I usually just delete whatever is underneath the foot. Not too much. Don't do too much, but you can delete under parts of the foot. Game devs do this where like they don't maul every little thing underneath the clothing and such. They just only maul what is necessary and such. So yeah. But you could do something like this, and this is also like much more easier. Again, if you really want to like, which I need to do a little bit more editing over here. But again, it depends on the shoe, depends on the model and stuff, and also depends on what type of toggles do you want. So it's like, you'll have to do your editing based on what you need, basically. But overall, just a little tweaking here. Yeah, it's not the best. Like I said, I would take a lot more time on this, but I don't want to take too much either. But you get the point, basically, where you'll have to try and get to fit onto the model, basically. And then, pretty much, we now have it where at least the outfit is retargeted, or, well, not retargeted, but is fitted, not retargeted. Now we're going to the stage of retargeting. This is where basically we'll take the armature here, which this can get a little complicated because, oh look, we have extra bones for physics. How do we connect them? So we have to figure out how to do that, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So what I do, of course, is I move the armature of the outfit forward. So just temporarily, do Alt-H when you're done. But basically what we're going to do is we are going to have to rename the humanoid bones to match with the Vroid model. But what we also have to worry about is the extra bones here. So let's start off by getting the extra physics onto the Vroid model. Now, I recommend, by the way, please delete any extra physics bones on the model. Like if you're making a new outfit and such, delete any extra physics, basically, like the skirt or a dress or something. That way you don't get confused on having to, you know, when you're doing the whole like adding more physics stuff. So keep that in mind. Also, do keep in mind too for this case, cause the dress does not have any chest bones. I would say if you know your way with weight paint, you can add chest bones, or you could do a weight paint transfer from the Vroid model to the dress to help. But just so I don't overcomplicate, because again, there's way too many different scenarios and outfits and stuff that you'll have to worry about. I'm just gonna go ahead on the Vroid model and I'm just gonna quickly merge these to parents so it matches the dress. But again, if you want, you know, chest physics, you're probably gonna have to do some you're gonna have to do some like either weight paint transfer or manually weight paint depending on the model and what you want, basically. So just keep that in mind. Keeping that in mind. I won't go over how to fully do that because that can get pretty complicated, but yeah. So what we're going to do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna duplicate the armature. So take the dress armor, you know, the outfit dress here, and duplicate by Shift D. Then do Alt G, so that way it's in the center. And then what we're going to do is at one at a time, we're going to start with the collar to make things easier for us. So this is the root bone. It's always important, try to look for the root bone, because this root bone will allow parenting to your model to be a lot more easier. Not many modelers do it, but there's also a time where they have a lot of root bones. So utilize those root bones. They help so much. So find your root bone. Let's say for this one, it's the choker root. You're going to press the you're going to select all the other bones that follow along for physics. Press the P button and then separate bones, basically. And then you're going to take this, what the new armature that's made, shift select it to the Vroid's armature, and then Control J. And then go to edit mode with the tab key, select the root bone, then shift select the neck, and then Control P, keep offset. That way now, when I go to pose mode and I move the neck around, it should follow. So at least it's in preparation for the collar. But what about the skirt? What about the skirt bones? What do we do about that? So, this depends. Now for this case, there is no root bone for the skirt. However, you can see based off these lines. Now, this one's a little mixed though, because I can see what they're doing. So, some of these bones are connected to the leg bone. And then some of them are connected to the hip bone. So it's these two, or it's this one, I believe. Yeah, so when you look at the lines, this one is connected to the hip bone. But the other ones, these bones here, and these bones here are connected to the leg to try and reduce some clipping during walking. This, again, this can get a little complicated, but bear with me. So, what you can do is, I would first, of course, delete the other bones that are, like, in the way. So for skirts, I would try to keep the leg and the hip bone. So you could either A, remove these bones, delete it, and then do your own sort of, you could do your own sort of parenting. You could do your own sort of parenting setup depending on the case of your model. Or what I do personally is I treat these like root bones also. So basically this one is for the right leg thigh, this is for the left thigh, and then this one is for the hips. So I'm going to treat these as root bones. So I'm going to kind of like move them so I don't get confused. So I'm going to go ahead and select the skirt and then the bones here. I'm going to press the P button and separate by bones. And then I'm going to select the skirt, shift select to the Vroid's armature, and do Control J. And then what I'll do, which can get a little tricky, look for the bones that correspond to the root bone I was saying that, you know, because again, Vroid models, they have the ridiculous name. Boost models, they have the more proper name. So I'm going to go ahead and take this right leg, root bone I call it, I'm going to quotations root bone, shift select this bone and then Control P and offset, then repeat it to the other side here. And then for the hips, right here, I'm going to then parent this to the hips right here. Control P and keep offset. Then I'm going to select the booth, hip, and then the leg bones here. And then I'm going to merge the parents. And that way now we have a more proper setup. Again, you could also just parent it manually, but this is just in case you get very confused of the parenting, or you forget, you can't memorize which bone is parented to what, so you can do that. And as you can see, the bones should be following now, which is good. This is what we want. So now that we have that, and for the shoes, we don't have any accessories or anything on the shoes, so we can delete this armature. And there we go. We have at least taken the physics bones and put it on the Vroid ball. But now we have to retarget the humanoid bone names here from the Vroid ball to the booth one. That way we can properly be able to connect this to the Vroid ball so we don't have any weird movement issues. So what we're going to do, we're going to select the armature, and then we're going to have to copy the name. So I'm going to start off with, let's say, the chest bone, which I'm going to double check. How many bones does this one have? This one's had the hip bone. So this one only has 2 spine bones for this case. So I'm going to have to go ahead and merge this. You can add a 3rd spine bone to the outfit. Again, you can do weight paint transfer or just manually weight paint and such. But just to keep it simple, I'm going to merge the 3rd spine bone to parents just to keep it easy on me. And then what I'm going to do is take the upper spine bone here from the Vroid model, the BIP_C_chesting, and we're just going to paste the name by toggling edit mode and selecting the armatures, and we're just going to copy and paste the names basically, which will take some time, but this is pretty much how you're going to do it. So we're going to go to the hips here, like that, select, name it. You also got to do it to the shoulders too. Copy the name. I believe, yeah, we have the upper arm and then we have the shoulder, so we gotta rename it. Rename, and then set this to upper arm here. Upper arm. And then we also gotta set up the neck one here, so neck, like this. There's no head bone, thankfully. And now we have the legs to worry about. So let's do the legs. Find the legs here. Leg. And then we go to the lower legs here. Do that. And then, of course, the foot and toe bones. Right? There you go. Actually, we'll double check to see if these do move. Yep, they do move. So this one does work. Sometimes the toe bones may not work, so just double check though. But yeah. But overall, now we have it where the dress now has the humanoid bone set to the Vroid model's bone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do Alt G, so the dress can go back in the center. And then we're going to select the dress. I'm going to also select pretty much all the accessories in the hierarchy here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shift select, hide the armature of the dress, and then shift select the Vroid's armature, Control P, and empty groups. And then select the Vroid model's armature, go into pose mode, and then move the arms around and see if it properly retargets. And as you can see, it has been retargeted. Of course, keep in mind there are going to be some issues of clipping. To deal with this, I would recommend Personally, for a case like this with dresses, I would just delete whatever is underneath, basically, because again, the 3D model is not a real person. It does not feel anything. So you can delete some parts here, and then it should fix your clipping issue much more easily. But if you absolutely need to keep the under part of it, you're probably going to have to do a weight paint transfer. Now, for the case of the dress, this can get pretty complicated because you're going to have to, like for this case, I could probably show, you're going to have to, let's say, select the top part of the dress, split it, then you're going to have to shift select the Vroid model, then select the torso or the top part of the dress. Then you're going to do weight paint, select the vertice selection here, press the A key to select all your vertices, go into weights, transfer weights, then you're going to go into nearest face interpolate for the vertex mapping, then ray radius of 5, then the source layer selection to be by name, and then once you have that, which again, I keep forgetting to say this, delete the vertex groups first and then do that. So delete the vertex group first and then do the whole thing, which I'll do that again. Because I always keep forgetting to do that, because I always assume something else. But either way, just gonna do that. And then, again, I do not recommend this method unless you really, really want to keep whoever's underneath intact. But again, I do not recommend it, especially if you're doing like for VR chat or game purposes, just remove whatever's underneath. Then I'm going to shift select the dress here, and then I'm going to go into edit mode, go to wireframe, and then select this area here, press the M button, then by distance, then Alt N, and then reset vectors to ensure that the normals are resetted basically. And that way, if necessary, I can move this around and the weight paint should be a lot much better and more fitting to the Vroid model. Again, be careful of how you select it too, because again, you do have areas that do have the dress weight paint and such, so keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you follow the steps, you should be able to have it where the dress should work. Again, for clipping stuff, I do recommend probably have it where the dress bones are parented to the legs, depending on how it's rigged. Otherwise, if you don't like that, you can have it, like on my model, I have it where all my dress bones are set to the hip bone, basically. So yeah, but pretty much it really depends on what your preference is regarding the rigging, how the movement should be, and so on. But yeah, and overall, the collar should work here, and even the shoes here should also work as well. Just like that. So this is basically just in a nutshell how, oh yeah, and you might have some, again, weight paint issue on the foot, so you'll have to probably do some more editing basically. Like I said, you can either delete more meshes, or just, you know, do a whole weight paint transfer. For the shoes, it would be, if you really want to do a weight paint transfer, I would say keep the actual original foot mesh and then go from there and do the weight paint transfer. Don't do a weight paint transfer if the foot ends up getting deleted, so just keep in mind, be a little careful about the shoes, but overall, you get my point basically. Now it's better. There you go. Now I can do sort of steppies. You can also adjust the bones too in case if it's too much, so if it looks really awkward, then just change the positioning of the bone, and that might help out with trying to get so the bending would be better. See, I have to move this more back like this, and now it looks more better. So yeah, so just keep that in mind too. But yeah, and overall, that's pretty much how you can be able to have it where, you know, you retarget like a dress or a skirt, and even shoes as well, to your Vroid model, or even, heck, a collar. Now I will say also, by the way, too, what about the coloring? How do I change that in Blender? Well, pretty much you will have to, which I'll move my head down. So actually, this is a little too low. Eep. There you go. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to go and select parts of the outfit, or like let's say the dress here. You're gonna have to go into the material tab, and you're gonna have to change the materials here depending on what you want. For this dress, it does seem that they only use the diffuse color, so I can change this to be like a brighter blue or something, or a dark blue like this. So you can do that if you want to use like just a simple base color to keep things simple for you. Otherwise, if you want to add more details to your dress texturing, you're gonna have to add an image texture, which is basically just a PNG image. So you can click on the little button here, click on image texture, and then you can load your image from there. Do keep in mind, however, keep in mind also, there is more to the whole texturing thing, such as UV mapping, and then like, cause in case you're wondering, like, oh, you added like this texture, why does it look so stretchy on the outfit? It's because you're not looking at the UV mapping. The UV mapping looks something like this, so you have to basically have it where the picture is made to fit the UV, which again, that gets a little complicated. So I'll try not to, again, there's a lot more to 3D than just what I did here. You know, you're gonna have to do some external researching and such. I also have made my own other tutorials regarding other things, but it's just a matter of how you also practice, depending on what your goals are in terms of 3D and such. There's a lot that you'll have to do, but I do hope at least this tutorial at least gave you some guidance on where to look for and such, so you can better understand what to do when it comes to combining boost assets to your Vroid model, or just any model really, because again, even this exact method, even though this is a Vroid model, this still applies to any model, even if it's your own model that you made from scratch or commissioned from and such. The same method applies. So yeah, but overall though, that's pretty much how you can do it. And yeah, and also I do recommend too, please check out your hierarchy too, and make sure that you clear up everything. So I'm going to the hierarchy now, I'm deleting the collection, deleting extra armatures, to make sure that it's all cleaned up, basically. So yeah, and then now I can finally be able to pose, and there goes lovely Tesh-chan, basically, looking her best right now, so yeah. But I hope that this tutorial helps you out on understanding how the whole process, or at least the general process of retargeting the outfits to your Vroid models, or kit bashing them and such, and all that basically. And again, I will say, please Google. If you have any other questions, like let's say you have a hard time Googling tutorials, or you have a hard time understanding in general, feel free to contact me. I'll leave my socials right here. Oh, and one more thing, I keep forgetting so many things. There's so much I have to keep in track of. What if the dress has a blend shape? Like what if like there's a blend shape made so you can fit the outfit? Like let's say I want the dress to be like more bigger at the end, and there's a blend shape controller for it. For that case, all you have to do is just adjust your sliders, by the way, to what you want, and then you click on apply shape keys. Now, if it's supposed to be a base model, by the way, be more careful. Be a lot more careful when it comes to like a base model. I won't be covering how to do it for base models, but just know, be careful. You're probably gonna have to do Control V. You're probably gonna, actually, if it's like a base model, you'll probably have to like, set up your sliders, then new shape from mix, then disable, press the X button at the shape keys right here, disable your shape keys, or like turn off all your shape keys, Control V, and then add the new blend shape, all that. Again, I'm just quickly going over that, but it's like, again, that's like that would probably be its own tutorial sort of thing, basically, because again, we're not talking about base models, it's outfits, but I just want to quickly elaborate that in case anyone's curious. But either way, I hope that this tutorial helps you out. Let me know if you have any other tutorial requests, because I understand Blender 3D in general can be tricky, so let me know if I need to make a tutorial on a very specific thing. But again, feel free to check out my older tutorials, as I have made many tutorials about Blender usage and such, so please check that out. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a lovely day. Again, there's my socials. You can contact for new tutorials or ask for any assistance, but do keep in mind that I do have a quite busy schedule, so please respect that if I can't get to you. Please respect I am very busy with other things. But I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!